Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to What's New in PDE, from manifest first to code first. My name is Mike Rumpf. I work at Scheidt and Bachmann Systemtechnik in Kiel. I'm a Java developer and architect. This is one of our projects. It's integrated control system for railway interlocking. And a little bit it looks like that. This young lady, it's the workplace, and she controls the train traffic at some area in Germany. And she has these graphical user interfaces she works with. And some architecture stuff. Our application is based on Equinox OSGI. That's an E4 application. And it consists of 300 and plus bundles. And we also use some generic software parts that we share with other projects in our house. And 300 plus bundles, that means a lot of manifests to maintain. And we have some issues with that in the past. We had some issues with that. Let's look at a typical manifest in the PDE tooling. So we have here some packages, and our project runs now for, I think, 5 or plus years. And what we typically see is that we have package imports that we don't use anymore. So someone edited it there, but it's not used anymore. There are some packages Eclipse needs so that we don't have any error messages, and so this gets rotten over time. So we have no way, or no automatic way to check this. So the question is, which packages are still actually needed? And another closer look. Now we have an import on org SLF4J version 1.7. And the question is it really okay this way? So if we have a closer look, and that's the default, if I first enter the package as an import, I get an unset maximum version. So, but are we really compatible with all future versions of SLF4J, of all future AP versions? I think that's kind of optimistic. And I think a year ago, maybe longer, SLF4J 2.0 was released, and it had some new API, and you could have some fluent API. So if some new developer uses this new API, the question is our API usage still consistent to the manifest? And if we look back at the manifest, this doesn't have changed. It's still 1.7, and this is wrong. That's an error. But if the developer forgets to edit this manually, it still stands there till the end of time. So it's very hard to keep the manifest up to date until now. And there are other issues. So we have no support in PDE tooling for newer OSGI features from R7, R8, like declarative services, something like constructor injection. Not possible. Other OSGI annotations, we couldn't use that, and a lot of other cool OSGI features. So, and then came Christoph for the rescue.
My name is Christoph Laeubrich, and I'm committer at PDE, of course, and many other projects of Eclipse. And yeah, today I want to present you a new feature I have implemented to address some of these concerns and even more. And first, I like to give a big thank you to these companies because they have funded the initial work on this feature. And yeah, I think. Yeah, so what's this new feature about? Manifest first means you provide the metadata that is used to resolve dependencies and used in the runtime. And in contrast, code first means that the metadata is either derived from your code or you provide this indirectly, most of the time because of annotations. And Mike has already explained it a bit, that with the traditional manifest first approach, it's a little bit hard to keep this updated, and we are much more used to using annotations because I think most of the frameworks today are annotation based. And one good point is we don't need to leave the code and do something in some other language. So yeah, that is what we actually want to do. So how could it be achieved? And this is where BNDLib comes into play. BNDLib is a library that is dedicated to OSGI processing of metadata. It can generate everything you need from OSGI. It searches the classes and find out what actually will be required at runtime. And PDE has its target platform, most of you already familiar with, and we have some workspace bundles, and this is called the PDE target state. And in contrast, BNDLib has repository plugins and also projects, of course, and this forms a set of repositories. And if we look at this, it looks very similar. So the idea was, how can we bring this together to work with this and have the best of both worlds? So the first question is, how could we make BNDLib aware of what PDE sees in its target state? And for this purpose, we have a target repository implementation that implements a BNDLib repository. And if any bundle is requested by BNDLib, this is provided from the local state. This could be from target platform or, of course, from a project in the workspace. And then the next question is, where do we store metadata? In PDE, we have the manifest and maybe generated something by PDE-DS plugin. So some standard annotations are supported. So it's already possible in PDE to generate some things, but not the manifest. The manifest has to be created first, and that's what Mike already explained, is a bit cumbersome. And BNDLib, on the other side, uses instruction files. For this feature, we have a file called PDE-BND, where we can instruct BND to work like we want it to work. So you can always configure or adjust things, of course. And we have the Java source code, we have standard annotations, and even some BND-specific annotations that allow to describe what we want to achieve. So BNDLib uses these instruction files and generates the manifest and does additional code scanning for annotations, and this results in generated files, so we can have declarated surfaces, meta type, JPMS, and even much more. That is something Jürgen will show us shortly. And then these files are copied to the output location where PDE can find them. So actually, this feature works as if you have written the manifest file by hand, or someone else, of course. So this makes it possible to bring these worlds together without rewriting everything in PDE, because one way would be, of course, that we say, okay, let's start from fresh, throw away everything we have, but that's not the right approach, I think. So we can just reuse what is already there. So PDE parses the files and makes them available to the internal model, and this results that we can actually use everything we have before used in PDE, but we are not required to maintain the manifest manually. And this allows automatic manifest generation also to mix the traditional development and using the tools you're familiar with. So you don't need one big bang and change everything. You can just start with one small bundle, so where you think, okay, let's try it out with a really isolated project and see how it works out. So I think you are eager to know how does it work. So at the very first step, of course, we need to create a project, and the important part is that you select that you are targeting an OSGI framework. And even here, you can select to target Equinox specifically, but select standard, and then this new option is available, and you can check the generate OSGI metadata automatically. That's all. So everything as before, just a little check mark. And then the project looks also very similar to what we already know. there's just one new file named PDE BND. There are some basic instructions that are essentially things that can't be derived reliable from your code, because how should BND know what's the name or what's the vendor or something like that? So some basic information, of course, need to be entered, but not all. And if you like, you can even click the manifest and look what is generated out of this. Okay, that's the basic, and now I want to hand over to Jürgen to show us this live in action.
Yeah, first off, to continue the story, so Christoph made something and then he threw it over the fence and said, here, have a look at that. And then in the end, he roped me into part of his talk around here. So yeah, just a quick introduction of myself. My name is Jürgen Albert. I'm the CEO of Data in Motion. I'm a long-standing member of the former OSGI Alliance, nowadays OSGI Working Group. So I'm also the chair of the steering committee, committer in the specification project, and project lead of the OSGI technology project, which is becomes more and more a home for certain implementations and tooling and stuff around OSGI. Also a committer on BND and BND tools, and the co-owner of the repository, yeah, and Eclipse Foundation member. So that's why I'm here, and why somebody thought I might be capable of speaking to this topic. And so let's go and look at code. So usually works always well when you do live some things, but that's the interesting part, how all these things are. So I've made a little demo repository. We have to look how we share this in the end, because I guess it would be interesting for people to look at it afterwards. So I have a mixed approach in here. So I have a manifest first setup, so just for comparison. Ah, okay, thanks a lot. Now you see something. Okay, so yeah, I have this little demo project here. I have 3 bundles that comprise a manifest first approach, so nothing to be afraid of in here. Just a little API with a service interface, which is exported, and the DTOs, and the DTO which is used and exported. And next to it, we have a component implementation for the whole thing, which uses already the declarative services annotations, and stuff is generated, and also a consumer. So nothing really to write home about. But the interesting part is now, how does this compare? So when we look at the API bundle, we see we have our manifest here. Everything as usual. So I've created it, written it by hand, or used the suggestions while coding the PDE gave me. And first thing we see is already what Mike talked about. It exports the stuff, and I put a version manually on it. And the other thing, I forgot to put a version on it, so I have an unversioned export for the whole thing. And the same thing on the other side, where stuff is imported. We see also the automatically generated thing. It just imports with the version it had at the time. Open-ended, which means anything, the first thing the resolver finds and the framework finds will be yours. So if you have a version 5.0, you're kind of screwed in the end. And yeah, so how does this look now when we build the whole thing with the manifest generation on it? So the whole thing looks fairly similar. We have our source folder. The only thing is we have our BND file here, pde.bnd file. And we need to somehow tell it what are my build dependencies I built against, so similar to what you do in Maven with dependencies. And I can just be lazy and throw things in here. I could even define version and version ranges if I want to. But if I only have one bundle in there for at build time, then I don't really have to do that. So this is how I declare my dependencies. And then BND runs off and does his magic in the background. So and what we see here, for one, we have our manifest, which is also linked in here. And you see there's a little bit, it looks a little bit different. So first off, we see a few new headers in here that BND creates. I can try. What? Pardon me? Let's just do it like I did before. Yeah, usually it doesn't work. So that better? Or should I make it bigger? Bigger. More big. So, is this fairly readable now? Also in the end. Okay, so maybe I just talk about. So first of all, you see you see a few new bundles and a few new headers in there. So the BND last modified, created by, and stuff like that. It furthermore automatically gives it a name, which would be the project name. You can override it if you want it in the PDE file by just putting in the PDE.bnd file by just putting such a header in here, and we give it a call it fancy. And we will see nothing. Yeah, that's always the thing when you do things live. Bundle symbolic name, sorry, I took the wrong one. So, not sure where the bundle name comes from actually. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and suddenly it overwrites the whole thing, so you have the possibility to modify and overwrite things that BND would generate for you. You can amend things and stuff like that, but that's a little bit more of the bigger features there. I will not really go into. But what we see here, okay, it says, okay, I export the whole thing, it gives it a version. It also calculates these uses constraints, which help the resolver later along when he tries to give you the right package at the framework, from the framework. It also imports for the newer version the Java packages, which is recommended for when you use Java something higher than Java 8 for the whole thing. And you interestingly see also that it imports itself, so because it uses the exported package, uses this DTO package, and so it needs to import it as well, even if it's in the same bundle, because in OSGI it's fairly possible that this package can be exported from somebody else as well in the same version. So and then the framework will always make sure that you always get the same version from, as everybody gets the same version from the same class loader, and you don't get any inconsistencies here. But it's only possible when you have this import in here. And also for the promises, you see it puts a proper version range on it automatically, because that's okay, version 1.3 is the one we have in here, and up to, but excluding version 2. So everything in between should be compatible with us. For the whole thing. And also you can see it adds this required capabilities in here. We will see a little bit more from. So how does BND or the functionality derive all this information? Well, it uses annotation. So we have now this, I put this package info in here, which is the usual point for putting some documentation. And I can also say just export the whole thing for me. And also this is the version I want to have. So now my truth is in the code. I don't have to maintain it in an extra file. I can write this manually still if I want to. BND is even intelligent enough to merge these things together. So when you write manual imports, it merges them together with the imports it calculates for the whole thing. And you can exclude things and stuff like that. So you still are in full control if you want to for the whole shenanigans. So furthermore, everything else became red because I changed the name. Let's turn this back. So furthermore, on the other side, let's look at the consumer, for example. Just a simple component with which is using the reference, and BND also calculates the OSGI. Sorry, the wrong one. Also calculates the component XML for you, similar to what we have before. And when we look at the manifest here, we will also see some additional things in here. Namely, it says, okay, in order for me to run, I need a declarative service environment for this. So it describes that, for one, it says, here it is OSGI extender. So it says, give you the OSGI component environment, at least version 1.5, because this is what I'm using here. And also, I require a service, which is also defined here. So that somebody who gives me an implementation of my test service. So at resolve time, this can be used, maybe now even when you use the launcher calculate results. For me, it might have a chance to give you better results in the end than it is currently, because it has all the information there it needs. So this is basically what you would get out of the box when you just take the whole thing as it was and copy it over and just slap the PDE.bnd file on it. But now we have the chance to do a little bit more. So this I've done here in this extra part. Not sure, I believe the others aren't built again, so that's why he's complaining. But here I did a few additional parts. So when we look at this service has a little bit more on it. So for one, we want to have some additional things, headers in our manifest. So I can define anywhere this header annotation. I can even use some of these little gizmos here. This would, for example, put this class as this class manifest header in there. For example, if you have a bundle activator, we can just use this header information and say, hey, this is my bundle activator on the bundle activator itself without writing anything manually somewhere else. And the result in the end is, when we look in here, where is it here? We have our class manifest header in there. So you can write anything in there you want. Furthermore, a few other things. You can use, where are we? So-called component property types, which are manually or self-defined component properties or annotations, which I've defined just here. It says, okay, this is my name. This is a component property type. Here I have a value and something additional with stuff that I want to set. And what it does in the end is when I slap this annotation somewhere, it will create for us component properties. So when we look at the XML, in here we see the properties that are defined in this annotation. I can modify it, so you get the possibility to have some type-safe property handling in there, because usually properties always are magic strings, and yeah, this can get messy as well. On the other hand, what you now also get, I'm not sure if this was working before, but it should have worked, might be possible. So for one, you can use now the constructor injection for the whole thing, or constructor activation. Can also use these component property types to reconvert what you usually would get as a map and say, hey, here, this is my annotation, and the framework will transform this for you, and then you get something you can work against for the whole thing. You can furthermore use things like, okay, I have some indirect dependencies. I know I need a configuration admin, for example, or a config admin, and if you slap this annotation on it, it will calculate for you the requirement for bar. And you see the manifest gets rather large, so nobody really wants to write this by hand to have really the proper data there. Somewhere in here it says give you the implementation for config admin. No, not CM. Yeah, CM. That's the one. So all these things are coming out of the box, but we aren't done yet. We have another thing, the meta type specification, where you can describe how your configurations look like. This is something you can also get automatically created for you. So when you use something like Felix Web Console, then it will automatically give you a UI where you have where you can basically create your service, configure your service with the given properties. And this is just done by saying, hey, here I have this OSG designate and point to my component annotation I want to use, and then this describes how the properties should be. And it will generate all these things here in meta-in for you, basically a schema description of what your service needs at configuration time for the whole thing. And this only leads this object class definition on here as well. So this is that. Furthermore, you may see suddenly we have this module info class in here. So which, if you want to give default JPMS support, so the only thing you need to do in your PDE file is something else. What you also have is sometimes you have shared information, so things that are in every bundle the same. So one of the things, for example, is the about HTML. You have in quite a lot of bundles. So usually you copy it around and around and around, and it's always the same thing. With BD, you can with the new thing, you can just say, I have here this shared project, which has nothing really in it, also my about HTML. And that's normal because it uses the wrong editor and has no manifest. Open with. Let's just use the text editor. So, and it has a few other things. So my default license, my default headers, I want to put in there. some information, who is the developer, stuff like that. I want to say, please, I want a POM as well. I want some headers that I don't want in there because, yeah, what do I want with them? Always include my about HTML and also we create the JPMS model stuff. Don't ask me how this really works. So and how to control this. One needs to look at the BND documentation for that. Just did it, so we see that it works. Yeah, and then in the end, what we have here, we have the module info in here, and we also see here we have this little Maven file folder where we suddenly have a POM XML, which describes our bundle with the group ID I put in there, the license, and all the stuff, and all the dependencies, which are derived from the existing target platform if they had group and artifact IDs in there. So this you get also for free, and then you can start and say, okay, I want this in all my other bundles as well. So the only thing you need to do in order to get this result is, and should be, just slap the include on it, and we will see, so here we have the manifest. We'll suddenly see we have our contact address, we will have the about HTML in there, and so on and so forth. So it gives a lot of possibilities, and I believe I'm reaching the end of my time. So it gives you a lot of possibilities, a lot of things where to maintain things easier by just putting it in your code and to share information between your projects in the whole thing. And yeah, the result is rather complex, but this is what helps your framework and also your launcher and all these things to give you good results that you don't run into class not found exceptions and stuff like that you quite often find when you try to manually maintain all these things. So, and this will kind of basically maintain the whole thing for you. And with this, Christoph.
Yeah, so a short what's next. Of course, this is not complete because it's a quite new feature and it's quite powerful, but you have seen it's working already and you should try it out. What we like to do is better support for OSGI testing in PDE. That is one thing that currently with the plugin tests is covered, but it also has some problems, and BND also offers a testing framework for OSGI tests, and this works just a little bit smoother. And we want to add some templates for easier setup, of course. We will share the example from Jürgen with you so you can take a look, but of course it would be nice to have some template projects in the IDE that is currently missing. And of course it would be good to have a migration wizard from classical plugin projects. Currently you need to set up it manually if you want to convert an existing project, but it's quite easy. So try it out, let us know your ideas. If you think anything is missing or not working, just don't hesitate to open an issue. Yeah, and thanks for your attention. I don't know if there are any questions, but if you want, we have a BOF today at the Silchersaal from 19, and it's also a larger BOF with the OSGI working group together, because we decided that there are some intersections between this, and it would be great to just bring people together that are interested in OSGI and OSGI tooling, because that's the main thing we want with this new feature, that we can bring better OSGI support and tooling in the IDE, independent of what you prefer, manifest first or code first.
Before we get started with questions, one addition from my side. Again, the BOF open for everybody. And usually this is one of the discussion points, PDE and BND. So that's why we decided to put this together. But in parallel, we are doing currently the OSGI Summit. We are over at the FMZ. And if you have any questions, if you want to listen in, we do specification work there at the moment and have a kind of help desk in the afternoon where you can come around and just ask questions about OSGI, because basically all the people are there that are active at the moment. So don't hesitate to come over, say hi, ask, give input. We are open for everything, and you're welcome. So, no, sorry.
I would like to ask, is there already integration for build tools to derive those files from the BND files?
Yeah, so the question was if there's integration to build tools. Of course, this is already integrated with Tycho, so you can already build this. It would also be possible to build it with the standard BND tooling because it's all BND, but it's also integrated in Tycho, so you can just drop it into your normal build and everything should fine.
From which version?
It's from version 4.
Why did you name the file PDE BND? The default would be BND.BND as the default. Whenever I write something in BND, why did you choose that?
Good question.
Yes, that's a good question. Why did we choose a name that's different from the default? And that's actually the reason we don't want to be confusing something with the default BND. So this could be used as an indicator. This is an automatic manifest generation that is meant to be used with PDE. But of course, you can change, if you like it better that it's named BND.BND, then you can create such file and use an include how Jürgen.
The option of either of them would be I can configure how I name the file.
No, it's not configurable.
Yeah. But you can put a BND.BND file next to it and make an include of that in your PD.BND if you like.
Right. Contributions are always welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very impressive demo. I think I liked the feature, what I saw. How does it work with very large projects, like single projects with literally thousands of classes in a single package? Does it scan the entire directory to figure the imports and dependencies on each change, or is it somehow incremental?
No, it's for the project itself. It will always scan your whole class path in your bundle or in your plugin. We use it also for larger projects. The part where it analyzes the things and writes the manifest is actually fairly quick. So I've never seen it that this is the point where the performance issues come from. So it's more that what you actually, because one thing which is currently missing and which you actually would need to do when you change one class and one export, you actually would need to rebuild all the manifests from your dependent projects, which is currently it's not doing. So this is something that needs to be triggered manually. But yeah, that's in the nature of things because you change something and the other bundles don't know what, so it needs to be recalculated. So then this can get an issue. Right now it's just incremental like before. But we haven't really tested it on a huge project. So
yeah, that's what one point. Of course, we need larger scale testing, more different setups, large projects, small projects, thousands of classes, thousands of projects. Maybe, that's still an open issue.
Which Eclipse version is this available?
This is
The June one.
Yes, the June release.
The June release.
Yes.
Yep.
I only know the BND tools plugin by its name. Would it be recommended to install that in addition and trying this out maybe while in Java editor support or may be conflicting in some generation stuff?
Yeah, we currently try to harmonize this a bit, and this is also something we like to discuss at the BOF today, how we can bring these things together. Because one big problem is, we maybe also heard about it already, we are low on resources, and investing time in two distinct frameworks or IDE integrations is not something that will bring us forward in the end. So the idea is that we bring both worlds together in a way that it doesn't really matter if you like BND tools better or like PDE better. You can choose either way, and at the best, we share the whole code base together.
But to answer the question, you can install both together. The only thing currently, your integration grabs the the editor assignment or association for the bnd.bnd file for some reason. But beyond that, you can have it in parallel, but you don't have to use it.
Is PDE already block-footing this feature?
Pardon me, is what?
Does PDE itself use this feature already, or is it planned to do so?
Yes, I have started with one project as an incubator to show that it's actually working for platform, because that's also a big problem, that we have large code bases where the things sometimes are simply rotten. No one knows why we have added this, why do we use require bundle or import package. It is sometimes a decision of the developer, and yes, but of course we also have heard Eclipse must be backward compatible for a long time, so we can't just scrape out everything, but there are some little areas we have identified where it would be quite easy to just prototype it, and hopefully in some years maybe we have everything converted and don't need to maintain it manually anymore.
For custom headers, if the annotation to add custom headers appears multiple times within the source code of one bundle, how do they end up in the manifest configuration?
When you have multiple, it collects all of them together. I'm not sure what happens when you have the same header in there twice. I believe then it's doing this list format you usually have, like import packages automatically, that it collects them together. So BND is fairly forgiving in that regard. Yeah, so that's how it should work. And you can also, and this is also, by the way, when somebody is wants to try this out and you want to migrate things, what you can also do is with this include mechanism I've shown, you can also include your old manifest. And it would take all the things in your old manifest and put the analyzed stuff over it, makes maybe migration in first step easier, and then you can throw out all your require bundles when you are doing that. But it's just a way to get.
At least this is interesting to see the difference between the handwritten manifest and the created manifest.
You can, also even as I showed, we started migrating from PDE like a couple of years back to BND, and bundles that work well for us from our perspective. The manifest that was created out of it was immensely more powerful and bigger in the end. So with all these requirements and capabilities, I never calculate, put in this uses stuff, but it really, really helps the framework along when it resolves and starts your bundles. So which also then speeds up the startup process, because the resolving mechanism is easier.
Years ago we had to remove the uses constraints from target platform.
Yep. Usually, it screws you over when you have in your chain of bundles that somewhere is in there, somebody has bad metadata in there. So even if you have the uses and then it points to something which has bad metadata, then it gives you something or might give you something which kicks you in the ass in the end. So, but you can remove it as well. Then you have to overwrite this specific import. So, and you can do that.
I have started using BND 7 recently, and started to figure out proper documentation for the BND file.
But proper
Proper documentation for the BND file content is really not that well documented.
it is quite well documented, but it is a lot, and you need to know where to look. So yes, we have room for improvement there, but this is as usual. Such things. Huh? If you look at BND tools, you have each instruction and every macro is documented. Not most of them are documented. So yes, yeah. But yes, there is. I haven't started it. It's. Yeah.
At least there is something documented. How well it is,
That's another topic. So,
it is a document.
yeah.
Requests are
Yeah, it's open source. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so
Other questions?
meet us at the BOF. We are there even for a long time. And if you have any questions like, I don't understand this documentation, this would be a perfect fit for being discussed at the BOF. Yeah. So thank you.